All right. Welcome to the Real Conversations podcast. I am your host, Kelly Scar, and today we have an old friend. I've known this guy for quite a few years. I gotta remind you of something, man. I'm gonna bring it back. I don't know if you remember this or not. It's kind of how we met, how I was introduced to you. I don't know if maybe I talked to you about this on a previous podcast, but we'll get there. So as always, I'm going to go through the bio and then we're going to jump into the conversation. So we have my friend Adam Bailey on the podcast today. Adam Bailey was born and raised in Wichita, Kansas. He has a strong entrepreneurial spirit and a get it done right the first time mentality. Adam's former team closed 5,811 homes in 6 years and built a resource call center, ranked 9th to 12th in the nation from 2012 to 2017, according to the Wall Street Journal for units closed. Spotted on Inc. 5000 list, he now is focused solely on helping others achieve passive income through real estate team building. He has built a new international modern team of 700 agents in 24 different markets, I believe, including Canada, in the last 2 years. When Adam is not helping others, he loves to play soccer, poker, camp, fish, and spend time with family and friends. Simply put, success is not a destination, but rather a journey paved with some pebble stones of learning lessons. Who said that, man? That's a great quote.
I can't remember, but it's so true.
It is. I love it. You know, that's one of my wife's favorite sayings is the journey is the destination, right? So, yeah, I love that. So we'll get into the past in just a second, but I'll just remind you of this. I remember walking into a bar in South Carolina. This is like 2013 or 2014. And I remember you coming up to me and you're like, "Hey, you're Kelly, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And you said, "Hey, I heard you don't like me, man." And I was like, "What the hell? I don't even know this guy. Don't like you. I don't like you." I go, "I don't even know you, man. Like, what is this? What's this all about?"
What year was that again?
It was like, I think 2013, 2014. It was a Boomtown conference.
It was probably at Stars, that rooftop bar. We've had
That's right. It was. That's exactly right.
Legendary parties there. So
yeah, that's right, man. Oh, so funny. Anyway, so fast forward, man. I mean, like that's 6 years later, but let's do this first. I want to dig back into the past a little bit and get back into the days where you guys had it was the Select Homes team in Kansas, right?
Yep.
In Wichita, sorry. Yeah. So you had Select Homes. What did you do? Like, what were you doing before real estate?
Right. So I'm actually just in my 10th year in real estate this year. I've definitely built quite a resume. Before I jumped into real estate, I started an insurance agency selling supplemental insurance with Aflac at the age of 22 or 23. I was working in a call center, which was MCI at the time, where I don't know if you remember back in the days, like local and long distance was separate bills, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I was selling long distance to business to businesses, and was making really good money as a young guy. MCI had about 300 employees here. Then I moved into managing like what is considered a bay, and I did that for about a year before they went into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And and I was just like, I felt so helpless. I was like, I never want to leave my future in anyone else's like hands or decision-making process. Right. And so Aflac had a booth set up, like they did a fair, trying to find everybody, new jobs and stuff like that. And I don't know if jumping into insurance was the smartest thing I did or the dumbest thing I did. I was still took a little bit of time off from after high school, and then started going back to college. So I was going back to college and, then, started selling insurance, became self-employed, and only made $11,000 that first year. And it was tough. And I ended up dropping out of college and just giving it everything I have, working day and night, and started really applying what I learned in that call center to insurance. Everybody was still operating with that old mentality when I would go to these, huddles or meetings, inside of Aflac's, office. They would just say, blow into 40 businesses and drop business cards off and, try to speak with a decision maker. And when you're 22, 23 years old, how many people are going to let some young punk kid manage their, insurance, right? So,
yeah,
it was pretty tough. And so I just needed more at bats. And so I started going, I can't remember what the resource was, but there was some government data that you could only access. You can't even access it now. You got to pay for it and apply and do some other stuff. But I was able to segment businesses, employee size, how much income they brought in, industries. And so I was augmenting data. And then this was like back in, this was like almost 15 years ago. I found somebody that had built a dialer. Like we all know that in real estate today. And so I found somebody that had built a single line dialer, and I started uploading data into a dialer, 14, 15 years ago, and really sifting and sorting it. And instead of like hitting 40 businesses in a suit or whatever, I was prospecting and being able to get in the door to be able to pitch business owners. And then once I was able to do that, it was pretty clear that I had to build a team around me because I could get into the decision makers calendar. But when I showed up, they're like, how did you even get an appointment? Right. And one guy was like, you're not going to be in business a year from now. He's like, if you're still in business a year from now, I'll give you, my account. And so I was struggling, obviously only made $11,000. So I was pretty smart. I started splitting business. And so all these old dogs making a lot of money, sitting around telling stories, collecting their residual income off insurance. And I would tell them, hey, I got a manufacturing account with 70 employees. If you come in here and pitch it and close it, let's split the business 50-50. And so then I would shadow them, and then I was learning because I could get us into the door. So I did that for about 5 years. I ended up getting licensed in a couple other states, covering Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma. I was doing really well in my fifth year, and then the market crashed 08, 09. And I was still running around trying to service accounts and stuff like that, but nobody was rehiring employees to write new policies. And that was my bread and butter, was through payroll deduction, not selling direct policies. And so I just said, this isn't what I want to be doing 5 years from now. Similar to how we're awarded, stock in the current company that I'm with now. Aflac did the same thing. By just doing your job, you're awarded certain shares by hitting key performance indicators. And over 5 years, I was fully invested with Aflac. So I cashed out all my stock, took a year off. Nobody was really hiring. And so I was vetting out all types of opportunities. I was looking at going back and getting a job. And then a guy by the name of Mike Gerbic, he was all over the radio and just broke away from Prudential, started independent brokerage, probably, 6-9 months previous to that. And he had like 5 to 7 people on his team at that time, and was pitching me on coming in, building this mega team with him. And so I was fully ego, and I was like, real estate's caused the crash that we're all in now, and everybody was getting out of it. And so I was like, I don't know if that's a good, opportunity. And then I was like, why wouldn't I just do it on my own? So I just kind of started shadowing.
It's like what Buffett says, right? It's like what Buffett says, right? When everybody's running away, you run towards. So,
but when you're a 28-year-old kid, I mean, like you don't know anything. I was 27, I think, at that time. So I started shadowing him.
What's interesting? What's interesting is the fact that you were able to pivot. You were making $11,000 a year selling insurance.
My first year.
And you recognized you even at that such a young age, you still had the business sense and the foresight to look at what you were doing, what other people weren't doing.
Right.
And kind of not really hack the system, but figure out a better way of doing things. I think this is a really relevant conversation today, because this is exactly what's going on right now. I keep having these conversations with a lot of people, and I keep telling people, like, in order to be able to survive what's going on right now, this pandemic, a drop off of listings, a drop off of sales, a drop off of buyers, drop off of sellers, you're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to, and maybe, I've heard people say, well, we pivoted, a year ago. I mean, okay, that's great. But, a lot of people didn't have that ingenuity.
Well,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily know if we have to pivot right now. I mean, I do think you have to tweak your strategy a little bit, for sure. For me, like, the coaching wasn't working. The good old boy network is how all these other people got rich. And none of the new associates was really like taking off, like building anything for themselves, unless a bunch of accounts was given to them to service, right? And so me coming from MCI, I was just like, how can I apply my past experience, with Aflac? And then when I came into insurance or came into real estate, IDX feeds were just coming out. Like we just had Tiger Leads, Boomtown was just getting going. Commissions Inc. was a struggling, up and scrappy startup company. And Gerbic got me down to, it was a mastermind or something like that. And a guy from the stage said, whoever could generate thousands of internet leads might be able to build a call center off of this. And I was still shadowing him. I wasn't even fully licensed yet. I was working on some marketing. I was working on some mailing programs, working on, how to, he only was generating 1,200, leads a year through his, old website, right? Not tied to an IDX feed. And so then I started doing research. We launched with Boomtown. Next thing you know, we're generating 1,000 to 1,500 leads a month back in 2010. And I said, let's get a call center and let's get somebody licensed to sit here and focus. And that was innovating back, 10 years ago. And I would say he had to change his strategy then because it was all radio. It was just a listing business. And it's, it's something that people are experiencing right now to be relevant in today's times. I've been on tons of coaching calls, tons of team lead calls with my group of 700 agents. And everybody's busy as hell. So if you're willing to work and you're willing to change your strategy up just a little bit, the business is there still to be serviced. I mean, nobody's really answering their phones right now. Nobody's really, in that proactive state. And if you're willing to get out here and change your strategy a little bit, the business is there, whether you're using, virtual, showings, virtual listings. My partner in Missouri, I mean, he closed right under 500 homes last year. He grew from 200 closings to almost 500 in 1 year, working with me. And then, he was telling me that he's been doing these virtual tours. And eight of them that he did in a row, he pinned 5 of them. So I mean, it's just changing the strategy a little bit.
Yeah, it's a strategy. It's the innovation. It's just doing things that haven't really been done before, right? And still having those conversations with it. I mean, the crazy thing is that people are actually at home now, and they're probably more apt to actually pick up the phone. If you're making those calls, they're probably going to pick up the phone rather than my wife and I were having this conversation the other day. Like, it just seems like the rat race is like slowed right down. Right? Life is it hasn't come to a halt, but it's just slowed down for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. I think it's a mindset problem, if you ask me. I mean, the people that are proactive and working, we have more business than we can handle right now. There's one of my partners, I actually just announced him on Facebook a couple of days ago, but he's been in since November. His business has tripled since he's with us, and he was on our team lead call, our ownership call. And I have a couple of owners that were struggling with, setting buyer appointments in the climate because they were sticking to their same dialogue, their same script. And this guy was like, well, I've set 26 lender appointments in the last 10 days. And so it was like, well, what did you change with your ISAs? And he changed just some keywords to like stimulus package, new loan programs that's available during this coronavirus. And still getting people to take action, to speak with the lender, to do buyer consultations through Zooms, and to be able to get buyer consultations signed through digital signatures and stuff like that, right? And so then some of the people that were struggling with converting their buyers or getting them to move through their funnel or speak with a co-marketing partner, just made some small tweaks in their intro and their offer or structure of their call. And then just the feedback from us kind of talking about that a week ago, the same people that were struggling now have set 4 or 5 buyer appointments over the last week. And so coming from a place of empathy and just really being optimized to these times and really tying that anchor around the offer, I think people are still willing to go through a process.
Yeah, that's important, man. I think bringing empathy back into business. The first podcast that I did was bringing humanity back into sales, and I think it's absolutely the case right now. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to your story. Hooking up with Gerbic, and you guys are, you get the Boomtown platform. You're generating, 1,200, 1,500 leads a month now, and as opposed to a year. Yeah. Tell me about the growth. Like, how did that happen? How did you attract the right people? Mm-hmm. What was your role within the organization to begin with, and then where did it go?
It constantly changed. I mean, people really connect to my story. You followed me for a long time and seen what, I've done. Before I got my license, I was just making $300 a week because I was the ISA setting pre-qualified buyer appointments and pre-qualified listing appointments for the 7 agents. And I was getting paid $100 per confirmed appointment, and it was around $300 or $400 a week. And then I went on and I saw a huge opportunity because in insurance, it's very savvy. Seems like you're just, rolling with a bunch of sharks. The cash conversion cycle is longer. Open enrollment for a pitch is only once a year. And so you have to do tons of follow-up just to get your one shot. And I just thought insurance had a lot of lazy people in it, and they weren't consistent for the type of money that was being made. So I went and got my license. I committed, and he continued to pay me to convert appointments, and then I was generating business for myself. And I think my first year I sold 24, 25 houses back in 2010. Hired her first ISA. She was a licensed agent, been in the business a long time. She was a mother. She wasn't looking to work nights and weekends. She wanted to, she just still wanted to be involved in real estate. She was very coachable, even for being in the industry. Her and I had great chemistry. And then, I got that thing up and going with her. And then she ended up wanting to become an agent, and her, kids, become a little bit older after a year or two. And then that was when I really dealt with turnover, trying to find the right person to sit on the right seat of the bus. And so I found it took about 3 hires. Even if I was hiring correct to the disc profile and all that fun stuff, it took me about 3 ISAs to get one to stick. And then I found, one that ended up being with me for about 5 years. She ended up becoming my lead ISA. Then we just ended up duplicating the ISAs, and we consistently had anywhere 5 to 7 ISAs. We ran 3 different shifts, open 12 hours a day with live chat. After 90 days, and went and got licensed. And we were consistently kicking out, 100 to 150 pre-qualified buyer appointments, which means they're already pre-approved with our co-marketing person, or we had confirmed that they're pre-approved, or pre-qualified listing appointments. Sold 350 houses in 2010, 2011, sold 388. About a year and a half into, messing with the call center, we really got it dialed in. It wasn't like we just all of a sudden was successful. I think I lost almost $90,000 to $100,000 of Gerbic's money, and I can remember him. He was just getting married, or just got married and was going on his honeymoon and going to Disneyland, and he called me into his office and he's like, "Hey man, I believe in you, and I believe in this call center stuff." And it's all like back in 2010, 2011, when nobody even believed really in teams or knew what an ISA was. And he said, look, I've lost 90,000, almost 100,000. If you don't get this predictable over the next couple of weeks, then we're going to pull the plug when I get back. And I think we're about 9-10 months into this. And this is how I understood cash conversion cycles. And you hear all these CRMs say there's an incubation and nurturing process of 6 months to 9 months with the buyer stuff, and 9 to 15 months with the seller leads. I figured that out the hard way. And I swear we were right at that 9-10 month mark. And then things started coming back out of trash and out of archive, because we were just prospecting people. Are you ready to buy or sell a home? No. But we didn't understand the psychological funnel, not just the CRM funnel that people went through the dream stage, information gathering stage, actively looking and purchasing stage, through that timeline that we hear about, right? And then so I started spot checking the data, like, well, what changed or whatever. And then that's when I said, oh, there's a psychological funnel here where people just don't go to the internet, register, and buy. They're just looking. They're just dreaming about what area they want to live in. And then,
well, it's like walking into the clothing store, right? And the person at the clothing store says, "Hey, can I help you?" And you're like, "No, I'm just looking." And then 10 minutes later, it's like, "Hey, have you got this in my size?" Right? Yeah, same.
So we went. Yeah, so we went from 300. This is just the power of the nurturing process and figuring it out. We went from 388 homes sold to 688 just that year. And then Mike was like, "You're brilliant," and we just kept it rolling. And then that was almost 75% growth from 2011 to 2012. Shot us up, being close to a top 10 real estate team in the nation at that time, according to the Wall Street Journal. And then I made this outlandish claim in 2012 that we were going to sell 1,000 houses a year with a small league group of people. Started getting people's attention, through the boomtown community and throughout the real estate industry. Who's this kid? And I got a plaque sent over there in 2014. I think we went from 688 homes closed to 853 in 2013, and then in 2014, I worked my way out of the field in 2013 because we were blowing up so fast, and so Mike stepped out of the business and turned over operations, the call center. I ended up becoming a top agent on the team and was coaching all the agents. So I mean, he pretty much just turned over the whole operations to myself, and I worked my way out of the field. And then we closed 951 homes in 2014, and started opening expansion offices in 14. And then in 2015, closed 1,000 houses just with our Wichita branch. And I think it took us 9 years to build up to 90 agents, and 5 different brick and mortar offices and four markets in that time of running it. So, yeah.
Right. So you really, so you said something really interesting here a few minutes ago, and that was, it took you 3 hires to find that one ISA.
Yep.
Right. So this is what I want people to understand, is that like your guys' success, like you said, was not built overnight. Like it didn't go from, 2010 when you joined them to, 350 homes sold to, 2015 selling over 1,000 homes. That took 5 years. It took 5 years. It took you, the ability to go and recruit the right 90 agents, right? Mike having the vision and the trust that he saw in you to put you in the right spot. Right. It's, like you said earlier, it's about putting the right people in the right spots on the bus, right?
Right. With the ISAs, there's a lot of chemistry that goes into it, and you got to find people that are complacent. I get asked all the time, because we ran a coaching company where people could shadow our calls and listen to live and direct and see how we're managing the data, listen to the call in real life time, ask questions afterwards. And people always ask me, why are all the women ISAs? And that was just who I could find to get licensed. And it was typically the moms wanted to be at home and play that motherly role and that wife role at night and on the weekends. And so, yeah, you gotta, I was trying to hire people just like myself, a high D personality and a driver, but they quickly want to evolve into an agent, or they don't want to follow processes or whatever. The 90 people wasn't 90 agents. That was our whole operation with all of our markets. We probably were really around 60 some agents with all markets, but selling 1,000 houses a year was with about 25 agents. And that was just out of the Wichita market. That's not counting the units with our expansion teams or any of that stuff. And, once we grew by 75%, we dialed in the call center. We consistently grew every single year by 25 to 30%. And this is when I knew our systems were good, and we knew what we were doing, because when the market started correcting itself, the veterans no longer needed us. And so I can remember in a matter of like 14 days, 350 units walked out the door, like agents doing 100 units, 70 units. And that was when I was, I think it was like, I'd only been a year and a half into running the team. And I was like, holy crap, like this is going to be a huge growth spurt for me. And we still ended up growing by 25, 30%, replacing all that. So that's when I knew our personal development, our systems, and everything was predictable. And this team was no longer built around one agent, one person, or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that should be the goal for every team leader that's out there. I mean, they don't understand that the predictability of building a business is absolutely key for them to be able to exit out of the business at some point. Right. That said, there are a lot of team leaders that don't want to exit out. They want to continue to sell, and that's totally fine. But, at the end of the day, if you want to have a predictable business, like you said, you've got to have really great dialed in systems and process. And, this is something that I harp on quite a bit. And I know, you've talked about this quite a bit as well, is that, agents will say, well, what system are you using, or what CRM are you using? And it's like, no, like, why don't you break down your business and get an understanding as to what it is that you actually do? and what you need, right? It's leads. So what do you need to operate? You need leads, you need money, right? You need exposure, you need a website, you need a CRM that you're actually going to use. You need a phone, right? That works. I mean, at the end of the day, all you really need to do is pick up the phone and call people, man.
You're missing one key element with all this.
Sure.
I've coached hundreds, probably thousands of ISAs, hundreds of owners and team leaders in this very specific category. You have to have a skill set, and you could outsource, training and all this other stuff. But if you've never picked up the phone and prospected, and you don't know how to convert, and you don't have a skill set, then there's not going to be any watermark or any benchmark other than some scripts and dialogue and how to track, valid conversations to conversions and all that fun stuff. Gerbic and I talk about this all the time. He retired when he sold his equity piece in this other company, and I got him back on this new journey with me. And, we both have been able to coach people from 150 units up to 500, and they plateau, both of us. And, and if you didn't have that marketing and advertising piece to go with the back end conversion strategy piece to get to 1,000, you can't do one without the other. And a lot of people miss that part of it. And the best way I can put this, I even told somebody on a coaching call, or she's an agent on our team or whatever, I was coaching her. She's just trying to outsource everything, and outsourcing is cool, but you can't delegate your push-ups. Like if I want, I'm in really good shape right now versus when I sold my equity piece in this company we're talking about, and I'm like really healthy right now. And I had to put a lot of hard work in to get to where I'm at, and I couldn't outsource that piece of it. Right. And so there's just some things that you can't outsource. And so, yes, you need a phone. Yes, you need a CRM. Yes, you need money. Yes, you need to know how to market. But if you don't know how, or have the skill set to be able to convert or influence people or articulate what makes you different, then you're gonna struggle.
Yeah, that's right. It's just all they are then is tools in the toolbox, right? Without like, I come from a trades background. So if I've got a bunch of tools in my toolbox and I have no idea what the hell I'm doing, right?
I mean, I was just talking to this with one of my agents just yesterday about this. I have certain people growing faster in my network. I referenced a guy out of Missouri, been with me a little over a year, went from 200 closings to 500. And then I got other team leaders, owners that are just doing exactly what they've been doing because they're doing the same exact thing over and over again. And I was telling this guy, I was like, if you own a mechanic shop and you're a scrappy startup mechanic, hole in the wall place, and you don't know how to use a wrench, or you're never picking the wrench up, you're probably not going to, be in business for too much longer as a mechanic if you don't learn how to become a technician. I'm really good at converting internet leads and conversion strategies. And that's because I've lived it. Like when I was in the call center building this stuff, I would record all of my calls during the day, and then working as an ISA, then I'd go out and show houses, convert my business, right? Or whatever out in the field stuff. And then I would come back home and I'd be tired, not wanting, to do it. I'd want to watch TV. And I would go back and listen to every single one of my calls. And I'd be like, oh, I sound like crap. Or, oh, I could have pivoted there. Or, this is where I could have used our love it or leave it guarantee. Or, oh, this is where I could have plugged the home buyer advantage program. Or, oh, this is where I could have talked about our 89 point market strategy, or all types of different things. And so, and started really honing in intros, structure of calls, and optimized closing formulas, and all these different things. And so that is one thing that nobody can ever take away from me, is because I put the time in to hone that skill set, and that's how I can teach others how to do it. And so
it's reviewing the game tape, right?
Yeah,
it's like you're a Chiefs fan. I'm a Packers fan, right? Right. Mahomes, Rodgers, they don't get as good as they are without going back into the locker room or into the stadium to review game tape on their off days, man. I mean, anybody that's good at what they do is going to review. They're going to review what they've done, review what they did, and figure out how to get better. Right? Look, it's continual sharpening of the axe.
It's a contact sport. Gerbic was the best at making the phone ring with radio, and he was more inbound. I was more outbound, right? There's not too many people that can do what Gerbic did. And so if you're going to pay for marketing, you better get really good at influencing other people and being very proactive within this contact sport where you're probably not going to last, too much longer, and help other people solve real problems. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, we added 50 agents to the team in the last 30 days, and I was on a traction coaching call. I don't know, at 1 o'clock today, and I had people asking me how, I added 700 agents in 2 years, or we added 50 agents in 30 days. And some other people are just adding, like 40 agents a year or whatever. And I just told them, like, I've really got in and had to solve real problems in my own business. I've had to hop in and solve real problems in other people's business. The more problems you solve, the more people are going to be attracted to whatever opportunity that you have.
Right.
And the easiest way to attract other agents is to run a good, healthy real estate business. I can remember when I thought I was super cool selling 70 to 130 houses a month. Right now I'm selling 100 a week. And it's like, I'm even trying to up my game from that. How many more people can I help hone in some of these systems and get them to develop the skill set to be able to build a good business? And that's what people that are going to be attracted to.
Right. So fast forward after 2015, when did you stay with Select Homes after Gerbic sold?
Yep.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. So I had an opportunity to pick up his equity piece for millions of dollars. It was a big deal. Me and a couple other partners, and another gentleman ended up picking up the equity piece and worked with us for about a year to get a deal done with us. And I already had said no to EXP for about a year and a half, but I was ranked 9th to 12th in the nation, and I kept looking for tech tools to expand. And I kept going back to the company I'm at now, and I was like, there's no way in hell. We were generating $4.5 million. And GCI, our average sales price is only $150,000. But, we were keeping close to $1 million. So I was like, there's no way we can build it. We can buy something like this. And then there was about 1,200 agents with this company. I just kept watching it grow. And then I quickly learned that this wasn't about selling more houses. If I was wanting to scale and I had more people wanting to get in business with me than we could execute on, because we were opening about one office a year. It was costing about $50,000 for the partner or us, whoever was putting up the money, and then taking about a year to get that money back and to really, get that office off the ground. And so I just felt like there had to be a better way to fuel the lifestyle that I was looking for. Gerbic had been gone about a year. And I elected not to pick up the equity piece. I talk about it at our mastermind. It was worth about $3.7 million. Then once I elected not to buy it, that's when I had to make a decision, because I'm going to take something I've built with 5 to 7 people. And in 2013, when I took over, I also got granted ownership. So I'd own a small piece of equity in this. I built it up from 5 to 7 people. I was going to flip it to where I'm at now, and be powered by all the tech tools because I believed in it. And I had a couple other partners that didn't want to go that route. And so I was running it. I was the face of it. They were still working in the field. I was working with the expansion partners, the marketing team, the call center, the coaches, the team leads, the agents. And so I had to go through a grueling decision to protect my future and to be in alignment with where I think the industry is going. And I had to make a decision that if they didn't want to go, then I had to actually sell my equity piece. And at the time, it was worth right around $400,000. I thought I would have got a check and said thank you for what you've done here, and they would have carried the torch and moved on. And then it's when you know that business is business, and it don't matter how long you guys have all known each other or grew up together, or families know each other. Then lawyers get involved in a bunch of other stuff, and I had real non-competes and all that stuff. And so I ended up selling my equity piece that was valued at that amount that I just told you for $2 to get the transaction done. I bought out my non-compete and non-solicit nationally. And then the lowest I could buy down Wichita was a year. So I couldn't work in my own hometown for a year, couldn't rebuild here, couldn't do anything. And so I launched with this new endeavor that I took on, and what took me 9 years to build up to staff, ISA, transaction coordination, listing coordination, marketing departments, operation, all that stuff. Took us 9 years to build up to 90 agents. I ended up having 90 agents in my team and my network in 90 days. Wow, and man, that wasn't even in my own backyard.
Dude, that must feel good.
Yeah. Well,
right?
considering what my goal was like, if I
Yeah,
could collapse 9 years down to 1 year and have 100 agents on my team in 1 year and not even be able to do it in my own backyard,
right.
then I thought that was a success. And so doing it
Yeah.
in 90 days, 90 agents in 90 days, I had to readjust my goals. I was blown away. I had to step back, and then I recalibrated because my 5 year plan was 500 agents. And I took 6 months off last year. And I'm right around my 2 year mark since I've made the change, and
Mhm.
I'm at 700 agents, but I did it in about a year and a half physically working. So, and so,
Dude, I know how tough it is to leave something that you built. I know how tough it is to leave something that you love, that you so fully believed in, and I can only imagine, where your head must have been at, going through that whole thing. So, give me some insight as to what the mentality was like back then, man. Was it were you beating yourself down? Was it tough? Were you doubting yourself? Like,
it was
how did you push through all that stuff?
it was it was probably the hardest thing that decision I've done. And it wasn't about the brand that we built. It wasn't about the investment of, the leads and all the stuff. It was the people, because all the people believed in me. I was running it, and I kept telling people I wasn't leaving and different things after Gerbic sold. And we've been about a year down the road. And I was like, we're going to pick up this equity piece. I was going to do it, and then I was going to flip it TXP. But when you have a lot of characters involved, and you sleep on it and you pray. I mean, it was the right thing for me to do, to go through that decision making process. I did a lot of drinking. I spent a lot of time alone. It was probably a very dark day because we had all the awards. Everybody looked up to us. And even when I sold the coaching company, I had people that now have partnered with me that were number one in their market, and I helped coach them to be number one. And they're like, you're having a midlife crisis. You haven't worked in the field in 3 or 4 years. You have expansion offices. Like, what is your problem? My wife at the time thought I was crazy. And so I just went through probably a little bit of depression. I dealt with a lot of anxiety, uncertainty. When you talk about risk versus reward, I mean, that was
Yes.
a lot of risk. And
Yeah.
to dissolve those relationships that I built with the agents, built with our call center, built with the transactions team, built with even the partners involved. I mean, it was it was tough. But I was at the time 36 or so, 36, and I
Mhm.
said, I've been doing this for 10 years. I wanted a top 10 real estate team, been bouncing around right in it and outside of it. And I was like, what I could readjust my goals to top 5. But I'm still going to be 10 years from now, 46, and maybe be doing the same thing. And so I didn't want to be in the same place 5 years, 10 years from now. And I really couldn't even get to EXP, quick enough. I was with my wife from the age of 17, lived together since 18, and I just have a radical growth mindset, and our lifestyle was good. I seemed like I was coasting. I was comfortable. Then when I had to double down and make this decision, I resorted back to what I had to do in my early 20s to build an insurance agency. Then I resorted back to what I did in my late 20s when I got into real estate. And it's just, you have to double down and work day and night. And people love what I got now, and I'm doing really well now. But I worked pretty much day and night for 9 months once I launched with EXP. And I had a 2-year-old at the time, and my wife at the time was just like, you're never going to be content. And I couldn't probably get to EXP quick enough. I went through a divorce, and then
Wow.
that's why I took the 6 months off. And then I continued to grow when I was off, and that's when I knew this model was different, because I've never had a model or a team or ownership in a brokerage where I could step away from longer than a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and it didn't sag below what we were normally
Right.
doing or damn near burned to the ground. And to
Right.
continue to grow by 8 to 9% every month, that's when I knew I was onto something different. And I mean, you've seen me on the internet. I put myself out there. I used to be super overweight. I didn't know that, I was unhealthy. I was doing a lot of drinking.
Mm.
I was coming off also a year before that, my uncle had killed himself. And so like, I was just
Oh man.
dealing with a lot. And to go through everything that I went through to get to where I'm at today, I mean, it's really, bittersweet. I would probably do things a little bit differently. I've never been in a multi-million-dollar situation where I'm buying something, buying myself out, can't work in my own hometown, or do I bankroll this? And I didn't know that I would have 700 agents in 2 years. I mean, I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know I'd be closing 100 homes a week right now that I'm paid on, that's happening right now. I didn't know that I'd be healthy today. I didn't know that everything was going to be okay. So when you're going through that, you're very emotional. And so that, when I speak at our masterminds, and I'm like, for the people that are here, witnessing what we have going on at our mastermind, hopefully you're learning a lot. But if you have a chance to join us for $149, just do it, because it cost me a lot of relationships, a marriage, and, equity worth $400,000 that I built up over a decade to start from scratch to get to where I'm at today. So
man, that was just, that's mind blowing, dude. I had no idea that you went through any of that stuff. It's crazy. You watch somebody online, you think you know them, and it's fuck, dude. You held a lot of that stuff back, and I'm super proud of you, dude. How you've been able to come through all of this is just absolutely mind blowing. It's inspiring. It really is. I know you did. I'm pretty sure you did 75 hard, right? Yeah. So you did the 75 hard program. Was that part of your shift in your mindset? Did it help pull you through everything, or were you kind of already on the other side of that, and it was something that you just wanted to maybe?
I would say I was on the back side of it, but I still, just to get personal here, because I really think like real estate is a fantastic vehicle, but it takes so much away from us. Like when I would say I was kind of on the back end of coming out of it. And so I was already dropping weight. I changed my diet. Business was going well, but I still wasn't dealing 100% with my divorce. I didn't, you know what I mean? I'd never wanted to push my childhood, friend away. We've known each other since 5th grade. So I was still dealing with shame. I still was dealing with guilt. The business was booming. Money was coming in. And so, my diet was dialed in, but something was still off. And the guy that I've mentioned out in Missouri or whatever, Matt, that closed right under 500 homes, he was needing something to get going. And he was telling me about Andy and this podcast. And I think I was my first trip to Canada. I was, speaking up there in Toronto and getting that market going. And I was like, dude, I'm in the best shape of my life right now. I'm like, I'm good. And he called me out and he started this group, and he started putting all the agents in my network, because we all collaborate and work together. And next thing you know, there's 100 agents of my, at the time, probably 400 agents in my network at that time. And he had 100 of them in there. And a lot of people started it. And so what started out as me getting called out and me like saying this shit looks easy and I could probably do it because I was already hitting the gym, I was already working out, but you can work out all you want and you can eat all the vegetables you want, but if your mindset and your spirit and your soul ain't right, none of that really matters. And I didn't know what I didn't know till I started the Hard 75 process. And so I started the Hard 75 process, and I was about 40 days into this, and I was like, holy crap, like, I'm thinking a little more clear, when I'm dealing with, being a little stressed out, or the weekend comes, like, I'm not drinking with my buddies. I'm not, it just changed my whole mentality with time management. And then also, whenever I would get into my feelings or whatever, like, I was still numbing it with alcohol, and I didn't know how much I was doing it until I started a Hard 75. And I ended up, my picture's on the internet. You can go find it. Like, I'm sitting in a pool with a beer. I've obviously, lost a lot of weight if you looked at me from the year before that, but I ended up getting a 6-pack. I ended up, I ended up felling it, and I didn't fell it because of anything else other than I presented in Canada, ended up having something happen, didn't get back home till like 10, and I didn't get my second workout in, and it was snow on the ground and all that stuff. And I was going back up to Toronto once a month during the Hard 75, and I think I got to day 69, and I didn't get my second workout in before I had to catch my flight at like 4 in the morning or something like that. And so, and we still all, and I don't know if you follow my director of coaching, Mark Benefield, he's dropped a lot, like, probably like close to 100 pounds. And I
Wow.
inspired him to get going, and he's in the healthiest that he's ever been. And we've inspired a lot of our network just to be able to live a better lifestyle. And what I really thought I was entering into, just getting called out and just being a team player, and thought it would be easy. And, you know, it would have been, there was many times I'm like, I could cheat and nobody would know, but I was like, I'm going to make this a personal mission to finish. And it just really wasn't what I thought it was with a hard 75. And then when I came out of that hard 75, like, I had a huge impact on my business. We were already growing fast, but when I was going to masterminds, I was speaking, my coaching calls, I was showing up with more clarity. I'm already an energetic person and lead with passion anyways, but through the middle end of my hard 75, people in my network were like, you're like a totally different person. You're showing up different. You sound different. I was more connected, you know, spiritually for, you know, whatever reason. That might sound kind of cheesy if you haven't went through the process of the hard 75 yet, but it becomes very personal.
It really does, man. And you know, the only person that's going to know is the most important person, and that's going to be you, right?
Yeah.
If you cheat, man. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I went through the whole process. There were times at, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and it's like, fuck, now I still got to get my second workout in, right? My wife would be looking at me going, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, hey, I got to do it, man. Like I don't have a choice here. And she would, like, I was halfway through and she'd say to me, you know, I've never seen you as committed to something like this before and we've known each other 16 years. Right. So I've that was a huge compliment. And absolutely, man, it absolutely is clarity of mind. It is focus. It is allowing you to get dialed in on the things that you need to get done, rather than picking up the phone and, you know, playing Block City Wars or Roblox or something stupid, some sort of mind-numbing, mind waster sort of thing. And then you bring that forward into every aspect of your life. Exactly. I love what you said. You know, your business partners are saying, dude, like, you're showing up way more clear, way more focused, way more energetic than I've ever seen you before. And like, that's such a huge compliment, you know. And, you know, you remember the principles that even, you know, you went 69 days, you're never going to forget the principles of what you learned through those 69 days. Right. I mean, those still carry forward into today. So
it's really a lifestyle. We kept the group going. So we're all, people were that failed or doing it again, or people were doing it for their second time. Or, you know, somebody like myself, I'm posting when I'm working out, or just trying to, you know, keep the habits going, because it isn't about just going through it and then sagging back to your old lifestyle or your old habits. It's about sustaining this new lifestyle that you're wanting to extract out of it, for sure. And I mean, the number one thing you hit on, that a lot of my team leaders that have families, running high power businesses and dealing with a lot of responsibilities, it teaches you time management. And the time management piece to that is really the discipline piece to it. And also the point where you like negotiate with yourself every day as a leader, or try to reprioritize the urgent stuff versus the prioritized stuff, or I can put stuff off later. Like, that's right. You can't negotiate with yourself. You have to just do it. That's right. And it creates discipline. And the more discipline you create, the more freedom you're going to be able to create for yourself and others.
Yeah, man. So we've got a few more minutes here. I want to talk to you a little bit. You mentioned about your growth here with your new company and what you've been able to do in such a short amount of time. Right. You had said, I was involved with a company and I thought we were doing pretty good. You know, in 18 months, we went from 9 to 105 agents and you know, fully understood what the value proposition was. I was ahead of the, you know, basically, you know, putting out all the content to make the phone ring and, you know, providing that value, leading with that extension of the arm of it being more value-based than I'm trying to sell you. So, you know, let me know, man, like what is it that you've done over the course of the last couple of years where you went from, you know, 0 to 90 in like 1 month, and now you're like 0 to 700 in what is it, like 2 years, something like that? Like what is it that you've been able to do to attract such high level talent into your network?
Right. Well, the first thing is, before I was able to attract anyone, I had to have social proof. I mean, and I already had the social proof. And so it goes back to, if you can run a good business and show other people how to run it, you're not recruiting, you're attracting. I've never picked up the phone once and called anyone and asked anybody to partner with me. Not one person. I have follow-up messages with people. I have reached out to a few select people and I'm like, hey, I've been working on a project. Would you check it out? And for the most part, I've just been able to attract good people. But when you're really empowering other people and you're not running it from the top down like the old models, but everybody's on the same playing field and we're all partners and we're in financial alignment together, you know, a lot of people join for different reasons. Like the same reasons I joined is not going to be the same reason some of the other people join. Some people are joining for the coaching, the partnership. Some people are joining for the tech package to lower their costs with their technology. You know, some people are joining for the cloud office. Some people are joining for to build equity or ownership, just like what I told you with Aflac. Like, you know, I was awarded stock by just doing my job. Then when the market crashed, I sold out the stock and it bought me a year where I wasn't forced to a normal job or forced into another opportunity. I was able to take my time and figure out where the next opportunity was for myself. Right. And so it could be the stock, you know, the equity to build in a long-term exit strategy, or it could be the business solution tools inside an enterprise to be able to scale up a larger operation. And that's what I needed. The tools I was in enterprise to do what I was, you know, doing already at Select, and show other people how to do it, and then be in financial alignment without taking, you know, splits back from these people or having to give up them shares inside of an LLC or any of the old stuff that we've had to do to get deals done, or to be able to retain agents and keep them around, or like what Mike had to do. I mean, I didn't buy into Select Homes. I've worked all that through sweat equity. Right. And so, you know, there's tons of different reasons why people join, but at the end of the day, if you can show somebody how to sell houses, you know, what's trending right now is traditional teams. And I believe what I'm building right now is a modern team that's really going to be the way of the future over the next 7 to 10 years. Just like when we were building traditional teams back 10 years ago, everybody said the customer's going to suffer and teams won't work. And how can you build a call center? ISAs won't work. What's trending today? Traditional teams and ISAs. I just feel like I'm on the front end of leading edge stuff, and just building out these new modern teams is going to be the way of the future. Nobody's tied to my P&L, even though I have tons of different partners. I've brought in 21 actual partners personally that I brought on. And then I brought on a coach because I didn't understand anything about duplication. Duplication is going to be here to stay, not just with EXP, but all the other companies are going to figure it out. They're going to figure out how to scale through, you know, tech and cloud and all that stuff. And, you know, we know how to sell houses, but I didn't know duplication. And right now I'm probably on 2 closing calls every single day, helping people vet out this opportunity, if it's a good fit for them, not a good fit for them. And our agents are following a core process to be able to get deals done with them. And when I look at when I look at what I've been tracking, I'm adding anywhere between 50 to some months high end 70 agents a month into the organization. When I was off that 6 months and this thing continued to grow without me, my ego took a big hit because I thought that it was all being done because of me and my efforts and energy and leadership. And when I just gave it up for 6 months just to focus on personal life and doing the right thing and you know recalibrating, if you will, I continued to grow. I was like, this has nothing to do with me. Agents are incentivized to build something for themselves, right? And so that's when I said I'm going to start traveling more and sharing this message. And I've been tracking these numbers. And if I go and look at the 50 people that's came into my network or my RevShare team in the last 30 days, 90% of them I've never talked to or didn't do a private Zoom call with them. They wasn't on any of my live presentations.
Wow.
They never came to my mastermind. And I've never seen a business model that grows by 90% of the effort of others, and they don't feel like they're being taken advantage of or making someone else rich, because they're also building something for themselves that no one else can take away from them, but they still get the collaboration, the support, and everything else like that we would traditionally get with sharing resources in a traditional team. But it's usually only working for 1 or 2 people at the top, not for the masses. And this works, you know, for the masses. And then, you know, it don't matter how hard I work day and night. I still hover in between 10 to 12% growth, and the other 88 to 90% is coming from the effort of other agents, because I'm showing them how to build good business, how to find duplication. There's a technique that is called tap rooting. I learned from Brian Carruthers, Building an Empire. As you followed my journey, you've probably seen me, my pictures when I'm at my mastermind, Building an Empire, stuff like that. So I brought in Brian Carruthers. He makes $2 million a year, residual passive income. His background is real estate. Family built up like 7 or 8 credentials before they sold off back in the days. And now he's, you know, in, you know, a different industry, right? And so, I brought him in to coach me and help me out. And he taught me this technique called tap rooting. I was probably doing 2 to 3 closing calls with bringing new agents onto the team or network before I brought him in. And then, once I started welcoming people to the network, tap rooting their network and their sphere, and just all the different things that he's taught me. Now I'm doing 2 to 3 a day, and my business is on fire. And I just bought an $80,000 boat at the end of last winter, cash, and I named it Taproot. I named it Tap Rooting because it had me take my 5-year goal, and I hit it in about a year and a half, 2 years.
Good for you, man. Hey, I one last question for you. Being that you're with a cloud-based brokerage. Prior to that, you had 5 locations. All bricks and mortar. Right. We're in the middle of this pandemic. There are a lot of bricks and mortar businesses out there. Mm-hmm. Everybody seems to be transitioning to Zoom. Like when I was with my previous company, I had an office there, and quite honestly, most people just weren't coming into the office. Like if we saw 5 people in the office per day outside of our sales meetings, like that was a lot, right? So I felt like there was already kind of a transition going more towards online, people focused at home, utilizing technologies like Zoom, like Instagram, like Facebook, different technologies. Where are you seeing things go, trying to put your bias aside, of course, if we can do that for just a second? Where are you seeing things go, man? Like we're like the next 1 to 2 years coming through this pandemic, like where are you seeing the bricks and mortar versus the cloud-based? Do you think we're going to start to see more bricks and mortar shut down?
I don't think we'll ever go
online.
I don't think we'll ever go back to the way it was before, man. I think we were already going down this path. Dude, look, you already know how much it cost me, and my ego was super high. 11th in the nation when I pivoted, and so I had to put all that aside to really innovate and see into the future. And our cloud has 500 active employees in it. Every single department is fully functioning and still open 12 hours a day. So we're fully open. We're fully functionable. It's business as usual for us. And it goes back to what I referenced probably like 5 to 7 minutes ago. I think every single company and brokerage is going to end up going towards this cloud model. And I think and they'll try to figure out some type of financial alignment similar to what EXP is doing. It just makes sense, man. It just works. And you can also build out your team suite. So you could, we own the company Verbellum, which is what built our cloud office. And you can create a team suite in there with all your logos, all your stuff, have 100 offices, private conference rooms. You can have a front desk, an office. You can have your whole little office in there as well. And people can come in and out of your office. We're on the go. I think the office is more so ego driven by the owners, dude. We were in a little hole in the wall when we built Select Homes. Then we took the other floor plan and moved our call center over there. And then we opened the West office. Then we went and opened this mega office. And, for here in Wichita, 14, 15 grand a month for rent is a lot,
Right.
And our cost of living is low here. We had this huge, mega beautiful office, and all these offices, and we might have 2, 3 agents at any given time in there. The only time people came in there is when I was back in town and presenting. And even when I wasn't there presenting and it was left to someone else, a team lead, a coach, or something like that, because I was on the road with our expansion teams, only half the agents would show up. So once a month, that's the only time it was full. And I just really think that's ego driven by the person, which is was us or the owners, to be able to have that space to say, look what I've done. Right.
That's right. Look what I've done. Look what I've built. Look at who we are. This is what we're all about. Yeah. The ego of the business.
Business moves faster. And when I was shifting from a buyer's market to a seller's market, you couldn't just do buyer consultations in the office. If they had to drive 40 minutes to meet you there, whatever, the house had already be sold. So like 4 years ago, I was coaching our team and my coaching clients on how to do buyer consultations over Zoom, and then get digital signatures with the buyer agency and then meet them at the property. But you already have a financial game plan. They've already made a commitment to you, but you're not trying to do it at the office or any of that stuff. And so if you're able to do your buyer consultations from your computer in your home or wherever, and you're meeting them at the property and you're closing at the lenders or the titles office, I mean, the listing agents don't need an office. It was more so the buyer agents to meet people, to meet them at the office. And
Right.
just we're everybody's in a, well, not every market, but most markets are in a hyper seller's market. And so it doesn't make sense to try to ask them, depending on community, come into the office. Nobody wants to sit through a presentation anyways, right? And if you can just knock it out in real live time through Zoom or any other tech, still get your agency signed. So there's that mutual agreement with that relationship. And then first time you meet them is at the house. I just really think that I just really think that not just our industry is there. EXP laid off 15% of the staff from actual EXP, and I've had a lot of people ask me about it. Glenn moved a majority of those. If they were majority of tech workers, contractors, and different things like that, laid them off from EXP and moved them over to Verbellum's P&L, and then also their job descriptions to Verbellum, to start building out that a little more faster and quicker for other industries, because like everybody's looking at how can I become more virtual, and
Right.
and I really think that not just real estate, all industries are trending that way.
Couldn't agree more, man.
So it's just not a real estate thing. I really think
Yeah.
it's just a different time we're moving into.
Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with you, man. My friend, I'm just so happy that we had this chance to jump on the call, dude. I'm just so happy for you and for your success and everything that you've done. Before we take this out, just hang tight. I want to talk to you after we're done, but
Okay.
Before we take off, just let everybody know where they can find you online and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, just look me up. I run an open Facebook page, just Adam Bailey. Send me a message, whatever. If you got questions, I'm always helping people, whether you're on my team or with the XP or not. I mean, definitely a giver. So if you got questions, hit me up. Be more than happy to help. Other than that,
So search you out on Facebook, on Instagram.
yeah, Facebook. It's where I'm most active, is on Facebook.
Okay, cool, man. Well, thank you so much again, my friend. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon, my man.
Yeah.
All right, take care.
Yeah.